Hey, I'm Jamie East, and today's episode of The Smart 7 is sponsored by Vodafone Business in partnership with Samsung. If you're running a business, any kind of business, you're probably spending some time thinking about AI, what to do, how much to use it, and how to even get started. The answer could be in your pocket. The new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, powered by Vodafone Business's reliable, award-winning network, will help you unleash your productivity through brilliant built-in Galaxy AI. For example, Note Assist will automatically correct, fix the spelling, formatting and organise your meeting notes so you can stay tuned into the session without any worry. And as useful as AI is, some major newspapers learnt this week that you shouldn't depend on it for your summer reading list. An article in the Chicago Sun-Times, which used ChatGPT to generate a list of books for the beach, included real authors but totally imaginary book titles. Getting back to the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, to take advantage of all the features and change the way you do business, you'll need a Samsung account and a network connection. To find out more, search Vodafone Business Samsung, and for network verification, go to vodafone.co.uk/network. It's Saturday the 31st of May, I'm Jamie East, and this was a week that saw tragedy strike in Liverpool, Reform make bid for Labour voters, no sign of peace in Gaza or Ukraine, and King Charles heads to Canada. Grab a cup of something hot, put up your feet, and get up to speed on the 7 biggest stories of the week. This is the Standout 7 from the Smart 7.
It's news,
But not the news. Monday saw celebrations across the UK as Arsenal's women, Crystal Palace and Liverpool football clubs all held parades and celebrations for their respective victories during the football season. Thousands of Liverpool fans had gathered in the city when at around 6 p.m. there was an unexpected and violent incident as a car appeared to deliberately ram fans on Water Street. Natasha Rinaldi saw the incident as it unfolded.
It was so loud, people sounded desperate, and we saw that the car ran over people. There was a woman stuck over the car, and then people started rushing to try to go after the driver, and they tried to break the car.
At least 79 people were injured, including 4 children, and Merseyside police held a police conference just after 10 p.m. to announce they'd arrested a suspect at the scene, a white male in his 50s. Deputy Chief Constable Jenny Sims praised the swift response from paramedics on the scene, but was clear that there should be no further speculation about what they believe to be an isolated incident.
What I can tell you is that we believe this to be an isolated incident, and we are not currently looking for anyone else in relation to it. The incident is not being treated as terrorism.
Tuesday saw Liverpool continue to deal with the aftermath as the King and Queen sent their sympathies, saying they were deeply shocked and saddened, while Prime Minister Keir Starmer addressed the people of Liverpool.
My thoughts, and the thoughts of the whole country, are with all of those that are affected, those injured, which of course includes children, and Liverpool stands together, and the whole country stands with Liverpool.
Police have now charged a 53-year-old man with offences including dangerous driving and causing grievously bodily harm with intent. The fact that Merseyside police released details of the suspect and his ethnicity quickly sparked a firestorm online, but Mayor of Liverpool Steve Rotherham said it was the right decision.
I think the police acted appropriately, quickly, to dampen that sort of speculation, because it was designed to inflame. The message of hate doesn't go down well here, and those people are wasting the time.
The bank holiday weekend saw plenty of coverage for Labour's potential second U-turn on budget measures. Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced last week that the government are going to review the winter fuel allowance measures introduced last year and potentially broaden the list of those entitled to claim it. This week has seen persistent talk about a lifting of the 2-child benefit cap, although that's been costed at around £3.4 billion, and it's not clear how it would be funded. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner was avoiding committing to any detail on either measure when she spoke to the BBC on Sunday.
Well, I think that we've got the upcoming spending review, and I'm sure that the Chancellor will set it out when we've got the opportunity. At the first opportunity, she will set out what we'll be able to do. I hope so, but I don't know. But I hope so.
New analysis from The Guardian suggests that Labour are facing serious issues when it comes to political polls. The figures show that Labour and Keir Starmer have had the biggest drop in popularity of any newly elected government in 40 years over their first 10 months. Nigel Farage's Reform Party have been gobbling up popularity points, and Tuesday saw the Clacton-based MP make another play for Labour voters. He offered a raft of new policies, including raising the income tax allowance, scrapping the two-child benefit cap and calling Keir Starmer's leadership dismal. Farage's new policies immediately attracted criticism from the Institute for Fiscal Studies, who said the measure could cost up to £80 billion and that there was no sign of a plan to fund them. That inspired a Keir Starmer-led attack on reform on Thursday, as the PM warned that Farage is introducing poison into politics.
He set out economic plans that contain billions upon billions of completely unfunded spending. It's Liz Truss all over again.
Starmer also described the Tories as sliding into the abyss, but he remained non-committal of the much-discussed possibility of lifting the two-child benefit cap. Water Minister Emma Hardy says that the positive signs from the economy will make significant changes easier.
What we've delivered as a government is fastest growing economy in the G7, and having that extra money means that we can invest more in our public services.
Crime was in the spotlight on Wednesday as the government revealed for the first time that it had authorised 21 charges against brothers Andrew and Tristan Tate. They include rape, actual bodily harm and sex trafficking, and the government seeking to extradite the misogynistic influencers from Romania. As the government struggles with prison capacity, they're planning to make more use of the parole service and release more prisoners early. They're also planning to build a number of new prisons, and Deputy PM Angela Rayner says the government's still taking crime very seriously.
If people are well behaved and deemed not a risk, that they could be tagged and supported in the community. So it's not softening crime, it's about making sure we build the prisons we need, we've got the bobbies on the beat, and we're making sure that people are safe in their communities.
Met Police Chief Mark Rowley is sounding the alarm, though, warning that the changes to the system will require additional investment in policing.
We're under capacity on international measures, we're under capacity if you look across Europe. So if you look at benchmarks, it's a big issue with our history, with internationally. And then we've got a government that's really ambitious about what it wants policing to do.
Russia spent the bank holiday weekend launching wave after wave of drone and missile strikes at Ukrainian cities. Monday saw at least 350 drones and 9 cruise missiles fired at Kyiv and cities across Ukraine, with at least 6 people killed. US President Donald Trump spoke to the press on his way to Memorial Day commemorations, and he was sounding increasingly frustrated with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time. But he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all.
Trump also posted on Truth Social fuming about Ukraine and describing the conflict as Biden's war. His mood won't have been helped by the Kremlin attributing Trump's remarks to what it called emotional overload, while Putin was back putting the blame for the war on Ukraine and its European allies.
You see, it was not us who organised the coup in Ukraine. We were told all the time that there should be democracy, elections. They, the West, organised a coup as if that's the way it should be done. A bloody one, at that.
There was no sign of any let-up from Russia this week either. In return, Ukraine has launched waves of drones at military targets, including drone and missile factories, and briefly caused all 4 airports around Moscow to close on Wednesday, causing flight chaos in the Russian capital. Ukrainian President Zelensky was in Berlin to meet with new German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who had good news for Ukraine and bad news for Russia.
Our defence ministers will sign a memorandum of understanding on the procurement of long-range weapon systems manufactured in Ukraine. There will be no restriction on range. Ukraine will thus be able to defend itself fully, even against military targets outside its own territory.
There continues to be no sign of any steps towards a ceasefire, and Zelensky reported on Wednesday that Russia appears to be massing up to 50,000 troops on Ukraine's northern border. While Trump's raged at Putin and threatened action, there's been no sign of sanctions, and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov was still deploying delaying tactics ahead of the proposed talks in Turkey next week.
On May 16th in Istanbul, when the talks resumed, we insisted on the repeal of all these discriminatory laws, and will continue to do so in the next round of talks, which will be announced very soon.
It's been another difficult week in Gaza, with continuing shortages of food and warnings that famine is imminent. Dozens of people were killed and injured on Monday in an Israeli airstrike on a school in Gaza City. The IDF say they were targeting a Hamas command and control centre. Monday also saw EU officials write a letter for peace, accusing European leaders and institutions of little or no action to help the people of Gaza. Israel's move to allow more aid into Gaza and is due to open the first of its controversial aid hubs, which have been condemned by international aid agencies, but Israel says is necessary to avoid looting. Jan Egeland, the Secretary-General of the Norwegian Refugee Council, said it's no surprise that there's no law and order in Gaza.
Israel bombed the police. They bombed all law and order in Gaza as they tried to get after Hamas's armed wing.
Tuesday saw chaos in southern Gaza as the first efforts of the Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation to distribute food ended with IDF soldiers firing warning shots at desperate crowds. Then on Wednesday, a UN food programme warehouse was broken into by starving Palestinians in central Gaza, desperate to get access to the flour stored within. It appears at least 2 people died in the incident, and Tess Ingram from UNICEF says this haphazard approach to essential supplies just can't go on.
The problem here is not a lack of aid, it's a lack of access. And what we need to see happen in order to get on top of this severe risk of famine is aid to flow freely and be distributed to people in a dignified and principled manner.
There was what sounded like positive news for the people of Gaza on Thursday as Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu announced he's accepted a new ceasefire proposal from Donald Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff. However, later that day, a statement from Hamas said the proposal falls short of its demands. In the meantime, Israeli forces carried out a forced evacuation of the only hospital in the northern Gaza Strip as part of its ongoing operations against Hamas. There's increasing frustration as the ceasefire appears stalled and aid supplies aren't reaching those in need. And former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn says it's time for much firmer action from the government. He wants to start an inquiry into the UK's supplies of arms to Israel.
The government's response is that they can't upset the global supply chain of the F-35 because they don't know which parts go to which country. I'm sorry, that's just utter nonsense. Those industries are very well organised. We need to know the truth, and the people of Britain need to know that their country is complicit in this.
Still to come on the Standout 7 in association with Metro, King Charles heads to Canada, and we pay tribute to a BBC legend. Right after this.
This is a paid advertisement from Asda. You know those weeknights where everything feels like a rush? Homework to finish, bath time chaos, kids running riot, and somehow you've still got to make dinner too. It's the classic parenting juggle. Well, this is where Joe Wicks and Asda come in as the heroes we didn't know we needed. Joe's teamed up with Asda to create quick, easy, budget-friendly meal ideas that are delicious. Think sticky chicken noodles, Mexican meatball tray bakes, creamy salmon pasta, real food that's quick to rustle up, tasty and budget-friendly. Because sometimes the biggest win of the day is getting the whole family fed and still having 5 minutes to yourself before bedtime negotiations begin. Whether you're feeding fussy toddlers or grumpy teenagers, Joe Wicks meal picks take the stress out of dinner time. Search Joe Wicks meal picks at asda.com now to see what your lot will love. That's Asda price.
Welcome back.
King Charles was in Canada this week on an official state visit and an unofficial show of support for the Commonwealth country that's been the focus of Donald Trump's repetitive and unwanted advances. The King was given the honour of opening the new session of Canada's Parliament as Mark Carney took on the formal role of Prime Minister. That's the first time an English monarch has opened Parliament since 1957. The former Bank of England governor was behind the invitation to the King and Queen, but Charles seemed quite happy to remind the world of Canada's independence without making any direct reference to the US president's ambitions for a 51st state.
As the anthem reminds us, the true north is indeed strong and free. May you honour the profound trust bestowed upon you by Canadians, and may God bless and guide you in all your duties.
However, it was very much still on Donald Trump's mind. This week saw him post a tempting offer on Truth Social that he would let Canada join America's new missile shield, which Trump is calling the Golden Dome. But the only catch is they have to become an American state first. Over the last few months, it's become increasingly clear that Trump wants to rule America without any of the annoying details of democracy, like a legislative process or input on legal matters from America's judiciary. He seems quite content to issue executive orders and threaten tariffs as a negotiating tool, but his administration continues to lose cases in the courts which are hampering his ambitions. Thursday saw the US Court of International Trade block Trump's general tariffs after a case taken by states and businesses. Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield said the president's gone too far.
The president has misused an emergency power that no president in the history of the United States has ever used to try and implement tariffs. A big thing that really compelled our office to bring this lawsuit is the impact that it has to everyone.
A federal appeal court temporarily lifted the ban late on Thursday, but the whole process has robbed Trump of his greatest lever for trade negotiations. Stephen Moore's a former economic advisor to the Trump campaign, and even he thinks the tariff wars have gotten out of control.
I believe that the president does not have the authority. We have three branches of government, and the legislative branch, the Congress, is the one who is supposed to make the laws.
Troubled Thames Water was hit with a massive fine by water regulator Ofwat on Wednesday. The company, which is struggling to raise new funding to avoid collapsing under the weight of massive debt, was fined £104 million for environmental breaches and failing to manage sewage spills. They were also fined an additional £18 million for breaking rules on dividends, the first time that activity has been punished. The firm paid out cash to investors despite failings in customer service and environmental requirements. Labour's promised to get tough with the water companies, and Housing Minister Matthew Pennycook says the firm and its investors, not their customers, will have to pay the fine.
We think it is absolutely right that the era of profiting from failure is brought to an end. This government has overseen an unprecedented crackdown on water companies. It's got to be right that companies cannot profit for failure.
And while you may have been worrying about sewage spills, there was more bad news on Thursday as the UK is apparently now facing a drought. England could be facing shortages of drinking water within a decade, so there was a warm welcome for the announcement that the government's going to fast-track the building of new reservoirs in Cambridgeshire and Lincolnshire. CEO of the water industry body Water UK, David Henderson, was delighted.
We have seen some of the driest weather we've ever had on record this year, and that is testament to our changing climate. So it is really not good that we have had over 30 years without a single reservoir being completed. So we're very pleased now that the government has decided to back the builders of reservoirs, not the blockers of reservoirs.
The death was announced on Sunday of BBC presenter and former senior executive Alan Yentob. In a career spent at the BBC, he was controller of both BBC One and BBC Two, director of television and the head of music and arts, amongst other titles. He was responsible for commissioning groundbreaking shows like Have I Got News for You, Ab Fab, and the now legendary Colin Firth version of Pride and Prejudice. His wife Philippa paid tribute to him, describing him as curious, funny, annoying, late and creative in every cell in his body. He was unusual for a BBC senior executive in that he also presented shows for the corporation, including the arts documentary series Imagine. Author Salman Rushdie had fond memories of him, including filming a scene for satirical comedy show W1A, which saw him and Yentob arm wrestle. Rest in peace, Alan.
It was his idea. I mean, I was in here in the building to do an interview for, I forget which book of mine, and Al said, can you just sit in here and somebody sort of opened the door with a camera and we could be arm wrestling. It's amazing, this sequence was maybe 15 seconds long, seems to have really captured people's imagination.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day.
Give us 7 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Did you know that foreign investors are quietly funding lawsuits in American courts through a practice called third-party litigation funding? Shadowy overseas funders are paying to sue American companies in our courts, and they don't pay a dime in U.S. taxes if there is an award or settlement. They profit tax-free from our legal system, while U.S. companies are tied up in court, and American families pay the price, to the tune of $5,000 a year. But there is a solution. A new proposal before Congress would close this loophole and ensure these foreign investors pay taxes, just like the actual plaintiffs have to. It's a common sense move that discourages frivolous and abusive lawsuits and redirects resources back into American jobs, innovation, and growth. Only President Trump and congressional Republicans can deliver this win for America and hold these foreign investors accountable. Contact your lawmakers today and demand they take a stand to end foreign-funded litigation abuse.